Have you ever noticed something strange about money? Saving your first $100 feels difficult. Your first $1,000 feels almost impossible. And reaching your first $10,000? For most people, it feels like climbing a mountain that never seems to end. But then something unexpected happens. People who finally reach that first $10,000 often say the next $10,000 comes much faster. Then $50,000 doesn't seem as impossible. Eventually, some people build six-figure investment portfolios. Not because they suddenly became geniuses. Not because they won the lottery. And not because they started earning millions. So what changed? Why is the first $10,000 so incredibly difficult? Yet every dollar after that seems a little easier to earn, save, and grow? The answer has very little to do with math. And almost everything to do with psychology. Today, we're going to explore why the first $10,000 is the hardest milestone in your financial journey. What makes it feel so frustrating? Why most people give up before they ever reach it? And how one simple shift in the way you think about money can completely change your financial future. Because once you understand what's really happening, you'll never look at saving or investing the same way again. Let's imagine two friends, Alex and Ryan. They're both 25 years old. They both have full-time jobs. They earn nearly the same salary. They pay similar rent, drive similar cars, and complain about money almost every week. Every payday, they tell themselves the same thing. This month, I'm finally going to save money. But somehow, life always gets in the way. The rent is due. The grocery bill is higher than expected. A birthday party comes up. The car needs new tires. A weekend trip sounds too good to miss. Then, before they know it, their bank account is back where it started. Or worse, it slips into the negative. Sound familiar? This cycle repeats month after month for millions of people. And here's the strange part. Most people believe the solution is simply to earn more money. If I could just make another $1,000 a month. If I finally got that promotion. If my salary doubled. Then I'd be able to save easily. It's an understandable belief. But it's also one of the biggest financial myths. Because if earning more money automatically made people wealthy, everyone with a high salary would be rich. But that's clearly not the case. There are doctors, lawyers, professional athletes, and successful business owners who still live paycheck to paycheck. At the same time, there are ordinary teachers, engineers, office workers, and small business owners quietly building impressive wealth. So if income isn't the biggest difference, what is? The answer lies in something almost invisible. It's the habits people build before they ever see big results. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. The hardest part isn't riding fast. It's finding your balance. At first, every movement feels awkward. You wobble. You lose confidence. You fall. Sometimes you wonder if you'll ever get it. But once you learn how to balance, everything changes. Riding faster becomes easier. Longer rides become easier. Even hills don't seem as intimidating. Money works in a surprisingly similar way. Your first $10,000 isn't difficult because the number itself is special. It's difficult because of everything you have to become in order to reach it. You have to learn how to spend differently, how to delay gratification, how to resist lifestyle inflation, how to ignore social pressure, how to budget, how to save consistently, and eventually, how to make your money start working for you instead of constantly working for money. The first $10,000 isn't just a number sitting in a bank account. It's proof that you've developed the habits capable of building real wealth. And that's why this milestone matters so much. Because once your habits change, your financial future begins to change with them. But here's where most people make a critical mistake. They focus entirely on the destination, while completely ignoring the process. They obsess over becoming rich. Yet they never build the daily habits that create wealth in the first place. And that's exactly why so many people spend years chasing financial freedom. without ever getting any closer to it. Imagine trying to push a giant boulder. The first few seconds are brutal. You lean your entire body against it. Your feet dig into the ground. You push with everything you have. But the boulder barely moves. It feels impossible. Then, little by little, it starts rolling. Once it's moving, keeping it rolling takes far less effort than getting it started. Building wealth works almost exactly the same way. The hardest part isn't becoming wealthy. The hardest part is creating momentum. And that's why the first $10,000 feels so difficult. It's not because you're bad with money. It's because you're fighting against forces that most people never even notice. The first force is simple. Life is expensive. When you're just starting your career, your income is usually at its lowest. At the exact same time, your expenses are often at their highest. You need an apartment, furniture, a reliable car, insurance, groceries, student loan payments, phone bills, internet, unexpected repairs. The list never seems to end. Every paycheck already has somewhere to go before it even arrives. Saving what's left over sounds easy in theory. But in reality, there often isn't much left. That's why many people tell themselves, "I'll start saving when I earn more." But here's what usually happens. A raise comes. Then a nicer apartment. A newer car. More online shopping. Better restaurants. More vacations. Before long, the extra income disappears just as quickly as the old income did. This is called lifestyle inflation. And it's one of the biggest reasons higher salaries don't automatically create wealth. As your income grows, your lifestyle quietly grows with it. Without realizing it, you create a more expensive version of your old life. The finish line keeps moving farther away. Then something even more powerful happens. Your brain starts working against you. Human beings are wired to seek immediate rewards. Imagine someone offers you two choices. You can have $100 today, or $150 1 month from now. Many people instinctively choose the money today. Not because it's smarter, but because our brains naturally value immediate rewards more than future rewards. Psychologists call this present bias. It's why buying a new phone today feels more exciting than investing for retirement. It's why ordering takeout feels easier than cooking at home. It's why weekend shopping often wins over long-term saving. Your brain isn't trying to make you poor. It's simply trying to make you feel good right now. Unfortunately, building wealth requires doing the exact opposite. It requires saying, "I'd rather have something much bigger later than something small today." And that isn't always easy, especially when everyone around you seems to be spending freely. Social media makes this even harder. Every day, you're surrounded by people showing new cars, luxury vacations, designer clothes, expensive dinners, dream homes, and exciting lifestyles. What you don't see are the loans, the credit card balances, the monthly payments, or the financial stress behind those pictures. Comparison quietly becomes one of the most expensive habits you can have. Because once you start comparing your life to someone else's highlight reel, nothing you own ever feels like enough. Suddenly, saving money feels like you're falling behind. Spending money feels like you're catching up. But in reality, the opposite is often true. The people building real wealth usually don't look wealthy at first. They drive reliable cars instead of flashy ones. They invest before upgrading their lifestyle. They think about ownership, not appearances. And while others are buying things that lose value, they're buying assets that quietly grow over time. That's why the first $10,000 isn't really a financial challenge. It's a behavioral challenge. You're learning to resist impulses, ignore comparisons, delay gratification, and stay consistent, even when progress feels painfully slow. Those are skills. And like any skill, they improve with practice. Every dollar you save isn't just increasing your bank balance. It's strengthening your financial discipline. You're becoming someone who thinks differently about money. Someone who makes decisions based on long-term goals instead of short-term emotions. And that transformation is worth far more than the money itself. Because once your habits change, building the next $10,000 becomes much easier. But there's one secret that almost nobody talks about. The moment you stop working for every single dollar, and your money starts working alongside you, everything begins to change. That's where wealth starts to accelerate. Imagine you're filling a large bucket with water. At first, you pour in 1 cup after another. The bucket still looks almost empty. 5 cups. 10 cups. 20 cups. It barely seems to make a difference. You start wondering, is this even worth it? Then something interesting happens. The water level begins to rise faster. Each new cup becomes more noticeable. Eventually, the bucket fills up much more quickly than it did at the beginning. Building wealth feels exactly the same. The early stage is frustrating because your progress is almost invisible. You save. Nothing changes. You invest. Your account barely moves. You cut unnecessary spending. It still feels like you're miles away from your goal. This is where most people quit. Not because they're incapable, but because they confuse slow progress with no progress. That's one of the biggest psychological traps in personal finance. Our brains love visible rewards. If you go to the gym for 1 day, you won't see muscles. If you study a new language for 1 week, you probably won't become fluent. If you invest for 1 month, you won't become wealthy. Yet we expect huge results from small efforts. When they don't appear, we assume our strategy isn't working. So we stop. But the people who eventually become financially successful understand something different. They don't fall in love with results. They fall in love with the process. They know that every dollar saved, every unnecessary purchase avoided, every investment made, is another brick in the foundation they're building. 1 brick doesn't look impressive. Neither do 10. But after hundreds of bricks, a house begins to appear. Wealth is built exactly the same way. 1 decision at a time. Now let's go back to Alex and Ryan. 6 months have passed. Ryan keeps waiting for the perfect time to start saving. He tells himself, once I get a raise, then I'll be serious. Once my bills are lower. Once life settles down. But life never really settles down. There's always another expense. Another celebration. Another reason to wait. Alex decides to try something different. Instead of waiting until the end of the month to save whatever is left, he saves first. The day his paycheck arrives, a small amount automatically goes into a separate savings account. Then he lives on the rest. At first, it feels uncomfortable. He skips a few impulse purchases, cooks at home more often, cancels subscriptions he barely uses. He doesn't feel rich. In fact, sometimes it feels like he's moving backwards. But something important is happening beneath the surface. He's creating a new identity. He's no longer someone who tries to save money. He's becoming someone who always saves. That difference sounds small. But psychologically, it's enormous. People who say, I'm trying to eat healthy, often struggle. People who say, I'm a healthy person, usually make different choices. The same thing happens with money. When saving becomes part of your identity, it stops feeling like a sacrifice. It simply becomes what you do. That's why the first $10,000 changes more than your bank account. It changes the way you see yourself. You begin thinking long term. You stop chasing every new trend. You become more patient, more intentional, more confident. And those changes affect every future financial decision. Then something remarkable happens. Your money begins helping you. Imagine you've managed to invest your savings. At first, almost all the growth comes from your own contributions. You're doing nearly all the work. But over time, your investments begin generating returns. Those returns stay invested. Then they begin earning returns of their own. Slowly, the balance starts growing faster. Not because you're saving dramatically more, but because your money has started working alongside you. Think of it like planting an apple tree. The first few years require patience. You water it, protect it, take care of it, and receive almost nothing in return. But eventually, the tree begins producing apples, year after year. Without you planting a new tree each season, money can work the same way. The dollars you've already earned begin creating new dollars. And that's the moment many people describe as a turning point. They realize they're no longer building wealth alone. Their money has joined the team. This is why reaching the first $10,000 feels so powerful. It's not just about the number. It's about creating enough momentum for the process to become easier. You're no longer starting from zero. You're building on a foundation you've already created. And once momentum takes over, progress often becomes faster than you ever imagined. But there's one final lesson that separates people who stay financially secure from those who build lasting wealth. It isn't about earning more. It isn't about finding the perfect investment. It's about understanding a simple principle that quietly shapes every wealthy person's life. Let's do a simple thought experiment. Imagine two people begin their financial journey on the exact same day. The first person decides to save and invest $10 every day. The second person says, "I'll wait until I can invest something meaningful." 1 month passes. Nothing looks very different. 6 months pass. Still no dramatic change. After a year, the first person has built a habit. The second person is still waiting for the right time. Now imagine this happening not for 1 year, but for 10. Suddenly, the gap between them becomes enormous. Not because one person was smarter, not because they earned twice as much, but because one understood a simple truth. Consistency beats intensity. Most people believe wealth is built through one big breakthrough. A huge promotion. A lucky investment. Starting a successful business. Winning the lottery. These stories make headlines. But they're not how most financially successful people build wealth. Real wealth is usually boring. It's built through ordinary decisions repeated over and over again. Saving before spending. Investing every month. Avoiding unnecessary debt. Living below your means. Learning a little more each week. None of these actions feel life-changing on their own. But together, they become incredibly powerful. Think about brushing your teeth. Skipping one day doesn't seem like a big deal. But skipping every day for years leads to serious problems. The opposite is also true. One healthy habit doesn't transform your life overnight. But repeating that habit for years can completely change your future. Money follows the same pattern. Small financial decisions rarely change your life today. They change your life years from now. That's why wealthy people often focus less on individual purchases and more on long-term patterns. They don't ask, "Should I buy this coffee?" They ask, "What kind of financial life am I creating with my daily habits?" Because every habit is casting a vote for the future you want. Now let's return to Alex. 3 years have passed. He's finally reached his first $10,000. The day he checks his account, he smiles. Not because the number itself changes his life. He can't retire. He can't buy a luxury home. He doesn't suddenly become rich. But something inside him feels different. For the first time, he realizes, "I can actually do this." That confidence is priceless. Before, every financial goal seemed impossible. Now he has proof that consistent effort works. The fear is gone. The doubt is smaller. He no longer asks, "Can I build wealth?" He asks, "How far can I go?" That shift in thinking changes everything. Because confidence creates action. Action creates progress. Progress creates even more confidence. It's a cycle that keeps pushing you forward. Unfortunately, the opposite cycle is just as powerful. People who never start saving often begin believing they're simply bad with money. That belief causes them to avoid investing, avoid budgeting, avoid learning. And every year that passes reinforces the same story. Maybe I'll never be good with money. But that story isn't true. Nobody is born knowing how to manage money. It's a skill. And like every skill, it improves through practice. Every financially successful person was once a beginner. Every investor once bought their first investment. Every millionaire once saved their first dollar. The difference wasn't perfection. It was persistence. Here's another lesson that often surprises people. Building wealth isn't about being perfect. You'll overspend sometimes. You'll make investing mistakes. You'll buy things you later regret. You'll miss opportunities. Everyone does. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is getting back on track quickly. Imagine driving on a long road trip. If you take one wrong turn, you don't abandon the entire journey. You simply adjust your route and keep driving. Money works exactly the same way. One expensive mistake doesn't ruin your future. Giving up does. One bad month doesn't matter. One bad decade does. Keep showing up. Keep saving. Keep investing. Keep learning. Those small actions create a financial life that becomes stronger every single year. There's one final piece of this puzzle. It's the lesson that ties everything together. It explains why the first $10,000 isn't really about money at all. It's about becoming the kind of person who can build wealth for the rest of their life. And once you understand that, you'll never chase money the same way again. Let's go back to the question we asked at the beginning. Why is the first $10,000 the hardest? Is it because the number itself is magical? Not at all. $10,000 has no special power. What makes it special is the person you have to become in order to earn it. Think about everything you've had to learn along the way. You've learned to spend with intention instead of emotion. You've learned to save before spending. You've learned to ignore the pressure to keep up with everyone else. You've learned to think about years instead of weekends. You've learned patience, discipline, consistency. And perhaps most importantly, you've learned to trust the process. Those lessons are worth far more than the money sitting in your account. Because if someone handed you $10,000 today, but you never developed those habits, there's a good chance the money would eventually disappear. We've seen this happen countless times. Lottery winners who lose millions. Professional athletes who earn enormous salaries but end up bankrupt. Celebrities who make fortunes and later struggle with debt. It wasn't a lack of income that caused the problem. It was a lack of financial habits. Money doesn't solve poor financial behavior. It simply magnifies it. That's why building wealth from the ground up is so powerful. You're not just collecting dollars. You're building character. And character lasts much longer than cash. The real secret most people miss. Many people believe wealth is created by making extraordinary decisions. Buying the perfect stock. Starting the perfect business. Finding the perfect investment. But if you study people who quietly build wealth over decades, you'll notice something surprising. Their lives don't look extraordinary. They simply make ordinary decisions. Extraordinarily consistently. They invest every month. Even when markets fall. They continue learning. Even when they already know a lot. They avoid unnecessary debt. Even when everyone else is spending. They increase their investments when their income grows. Instead of increasing every expense. And year after year, those simple decisions compound. Not just financially, mentally, emotionally, behaviorally. Eventually, the gap between them and everyone else becomes impossible to ignore. People call them lucky. But what they're really seeing is the result of thousands of good decisions made over many years. 5 practical lessons you can start today. So what should you actually do after watching this video? Let's keep it simple. First, pay yourself before you pay anyone else. The moment your paycheck arrives, move a portion into savings or investments before you have the chance to spend it. If you only save what's left over, there usually won't be much left. Treat saving like a bill that must be paid every month. Second, stop comparing your financial journey to someone else's. Social media is full of people showing expensive lifestyles. But remember, you're seeing the highlight reel. Not the bank statements. Not the debt. Not the stress. Run your own race. Because wealth grows quietly. Third, focus on habits, not milestones. Don't wake up every day wondering, am I rich yet? Instead ask, did I make one good financial decision today? One decision. Every day. That's enough. Fourth, make your money work for you. Saving is important. But over time, money should have a job. Whether it's invested in broad market funds, retirement accounts, or other long-term investments, the goal is to let your money grow alongside your own efforts. Because there comes a point when your investments begin contributing to your financial progress too. That's when wealth starts accelerating. Finally, be patient. This might be the hardest lesson of all. We live in a world that celebrates overnight success. But lasting wealth is almost never built overnight. It's built quietly. Slowly. One paycheck. One investment. One habit. 1 year at a time. Don't underestimate what 10 years of consistency can do. Because the person who keeps showing up almost always beats the person waiting for the perfect moment. Final thought. Imagine yourself 10 years from now. There are two versions of you. The first version keeps waiting. Waiting for a bigger salary. Waiting for lower expenses. Waiting for the perfect investment. Waiting for someday. 10 years pass. And nothing really changes. Then there's the second version. They didn't have all the answers. They didn't earn a fortune overnight. They simply started. They saved a little. Invested consistently. Made mistakes. Learned from them. Kept going. And one day, they looked back and realized something incredible. The hardest part wasn't building wealth. The hardest part was taking the first step. Because once that first step became a habit, everything else became easier. If this video changed the way you think about money, share it with someone who's trying to build a better financial future. Sometimes one conversation can change the direction of an entire life. And if you enjoy simple, story-driven videos about money psychology, investing, wealth building, passive income, and financial freedom, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Every week, we break down complex financial ideas into clear, practical lessons you can use in everyday life. Now it's your turn. What financial milestone are you working toward right now? Is it your first $1,000? Your first $10,000? Or your first $100,000? Let us know in the comments. Remember, the first $10,000 isn't valuable because of the money. It's valuable because of the person you become while earning it. Start today. Stay consistent. And let time do what it does best. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.